This conference
we
will
are
now be
recording.
recorded.
Okay, we're good to go?
You are good to go.
Okay, this is the September 23rd special meeting of the Darien Parks and Recreation Commission, and calling the meeting to order. First order of business is the approval of the August 19th minutes. Does anybody have any comments or changes for Jamie? No, oh, there's Susan. No, everybody's good? Okay. I actually didn't have any. I know you're all shocked. Absent one very minor grammatical issue that's so minor that I'm hesitant to even call it out. So I think we'll just leave it alone.
Let's do a round of applause for Jamie. Woo!
Thank you. Thank you.
Good job.
I'm very excited.
I know.
She's
So
just
very
so
excited.
good tonight.
So
I think that's the first I've ever heard.
I know. It's like, whoa, like, was she paying attention? It's just so not like that. Okay. So with that, then we can take a motion to accept the minutes.
I'll move we accept.
Thank you, Mary Louise. Second?
I'll second.
Okay, and Jamie Gore needs to roll call us.
Is caller 1 here?
I don't think so, but I don't know. I think she was not going to attend unless I texted her and said that we needed her.
Can we ask caller 1 to identify themselves?
That might be me. It's Kathy. I couldn't hear through my computer. I was having some problems
Oh,
today.
my apologies. That was
No,
confusing.
that's fine. That's fine. That
Okay.
happens. That happens sometimes. Okay.
Okay, Amy,
Here.
Lori,
Yep.
Susan,
Yes.
that's everybody.
Okay, we're good on those. Okay, the next item on the agenda is public comment, and we did not receive any by mail, nor starting this month. We did make it available that individuals who wanted to speak during the meeting could register up till noon today and then just identify themselves over the GoToMeeting platform and speak, but we did not have anybody register today. So we have no public comment. Next on the agenda was, or is, the field maintenance practices with the use of the limited amount of pesticides. You'll recall back several meetings ago, we had in-depth presentations to women who were brought to us through the good efforts of the pollinator pathway, our friends Deepika and Juliet. Jim Flynn had asked for an opportunity to secure a subject matter expert who might discuss the benefits of limited amounts of use of pesticides, but to date he has not secured an individual and asked to have the opportunity to do that until October. Pam, I would say if he can't do that by October, then we need to move forward with a decision on this.
Yes. He has secured someone for October.
Okay.
It's a college professor at UConn.
Okay. Okay, so we'll plan that for our October meeting. We do have the topic open. Just as a reminder, this is a special meeting, so we can't add anything new to the agenda this evening. But I didn't know if anybody had any questions or comments as, follow up on the presentations that we had. Nope. Susan?
Question.
Yeah.
Is someone on staff going to be talking to the other places that currently use are not using pesticides anymore? And was that something Jim was going to do or Pam was going to do? Because I'd like to hear how they're able to take care of their fields with the use of pesticides. And there were quite a number of places locally that do it. So I'd like to get some of that. think Jim's going to present what his findings are, but I think someone perhaps should let us know if, what other people are doing, or if we should be doing it. I'm, just wondering, if you have a contact at Greenwich, if they do no pesticides, Pam?
Yeah, I've had multiple conversations with Jim Flynn, and he has been calling around surrounding communities. So he should have either a report for me to share with you, or he will come on the meeting. I'm not certain. I haven't confirmed that he will actually speak, but we'll have something.
I would suggest if he wants to continue the practice that he needs to be present to support that.
Okay.
Okay, but I think that's a great suggestion on Susan's part. And I do think we should be getting information and data from other communities and that have switched over. I did see an article in the Stanford Advocate about a month or so ago that New Canaan is investigating this as well. So that would be another community that we could follow up with to see what progress they're making. But clearly some of their officials have the same concerns that we do. Okay.
Okay.
I think we do want to, press ahead. We have some time on this now because the next scheduled application would not be until next spring. But that being said, if we were to proceed and determine that we don't want to use them anymore, I would assume there would be some time needed to gear up to come up with an alternate plan. Is that a fair statement, Pam?
Yes, and also Jamie Stevenson has let Jim Flynn know that she wants the Highland Farms property to be organic only.
Okay.
So he already has to gear up for that property.
Okay.
Mhm.
Okay, great. Okay, so we will expect a speaker on that topic for our October meeting. And then I would expect that the commission would consider that and discuss it and then take action at our November meeting. Okay. Does that sound amenable to everybody in terms of a pathway to proceed?
Mhm.
I'm seeing good nods. Okay. Amy, yep.
Yeah, I guess I just want a little more clarity on the reporting on the other towns, because I think that's an important part of this. I'm sorry, who was, maybe there are a lot of interruptions here. So I just want to make sure who's following up on that? Like who's following up with Greenwich?
I said that Jim Flynn has been following up with numerous towns, as well as some of the contacts that I had talked to. He then called them and had conversations with them as well.
So we're going to rely on Jim to do the reporting of from other towns.
Yes, it makes sense because he can compare what he's doing with his maintenance plan with them. Yes, and find out what practices they're currently using and if they're considering going organic.
Right. I just submit to you that we may want to have somebody who's independent with a non-biased lens doing that review. I don't know if that's Jim or Pam, or someone on the, I don't know. What do you think?
I think that's appropriate, frankly.
Yeah. Great.
Yes, I'll have to work on that.
Okay. So maybe Pam, you could start by supplying us a list of the contacts that you have.
Yes,
Okay.
I'm gonna have to recall everybody. I reached out to a few that I understood were organic, but I have not reached out to every town around us. So I will have to compile a list, and certainly these days it's not that difficult to get in touch with these park supervisors, but it's really the time spent asking the correct questions and the time spent conversing.
Okay.
Yeah, understood. I'm sure it takes a lot of time. But this is a super important topic and we want to make the right decisions.
I agree.
So I think it's time well spent.
I agree.
Thank you, Pam.
Great. Thank you. Any other comments or questions from the other commission members? Mary Louise, Susan, Kathy?
No, but I agree with Amy as far as getting some independent people to weigh in on this.
Okay. Great, thanks. Okay, next, we will move on to the discussion on Cherry Lawn. Just give me a minute to get my notes in front of me. So as you'll recall from the last meeting, we did go out to bid to, repair and refurbish the basketball court at Cherry Lawn, which has, not been in use for some number of years now, and the whole area is looking kind of sad. And we did receive several bids back. However, as the bids were opened by Pam and Jamie and Kate, whoever was assembled in the room, and reviewed, it was determined that several of the bids were not completed properly, which disqualifies them. That's standard government bidding process. They're very strict protocols as to how this is accomplished. That did leave us with one remaining bid from a company called Davis. And Pam does think it's a workable bid. And I just wanted to run over the details on what it is that we're looking at with this. The current court is 80 by 40. And what we're looking at is being able to keep the court at 80 by 40, but moving it north by 10 feet. That would allow us to preserve the trees by moving everything north by 10 feet. Also needed is to clear out the mess of growth that's in that area, the 10 feet on the north side of the court. And then also to clean, there was tremendous weed overgrowth over the fence, which would be on the east side. Am I getting that right, Pam? On the east side.
Yes.
Which is
Playground
completely
side.
covered. Okay, the playground side. Okay, I think it's east. The playground side, etc. And then under the Davis bid, the existing asphalt would be, cracks and everything would be repaired, filled, and smoothed. And then 2 inches of new asphalt would go over the entire thing, plus the new 10 feet. So they put gravel or whatever it is they do underneath the new section to get it up so that will all be level. They would wait on that for several weeks. And once that cured, they would seal and repair, or seal and strike that. So we were feeling pretty good about this, and it was something that if we can get all the funding secured soon, and I'll touch on that in a minute, that we might be able to execute a contract and get this going to have it done before the asphalt season ends, because around late October, early November, you can't lay asphalt anymore.
Mhm.
There are different discussions within town hall, with me, members of the community inquired as to whether we could save a bit of money by having the town staff, either PM staff or Ed Gentile staff, help with certain pieces of this project. So Pam has been over to the property with Jim Flynn and Ed. And the good news is that they were eager beavers and started clearing out all of the weeds that were on the fence. The bad news is, in doing so, they have concluded, and I had this concern when I went over a week or so ago and re-walked and took some pictures, that on, again, what I believe is the east side, there is a retaining wall that drops down, and the wall is shot.
Yeah.
The wall and the fence are shot. Now that all the growth is off of it, it's problematic. So it would be a problem for us to lay this new asphalt and do all of this butting up against this new retaining wall. In working with the town staff team, they feel that they could remove the retaining wall, bring in fill, and just grade it down. And it would be just grassed in, so it'd be a gentle slope, there'd be no wall. We'd still have to put up a fence to keep people from sort of running off the court.
Mhm.
And also that it would be necessary to remove the existing asphalt completely, which town staff believes they could do, correct, Pam?
Yes.
Yes, but then the bidder, Davis, said that that would require them to lay down 3 inches of asphalt instead of 2. So with all of those changes, we, which just really came up today, we have consulted with town council, who believes that the magnitude of the changes is significant enough that we need to reissue an a proposal and get new bids. So that's going to stall us a bit.
Why does it have to go from 2 to 3 inches just because of the retaining wall, the surface?
The removal of the retaining wall, I guess, is going to cause some structural issues, Pam, that now means we really can't, we were going to leave the existing asphalt, repair and smooth it, and then put a new 2 inches over it. But with
Right.
the removal of the wall, it's going to compromise it sufficiently that the feeling is now we really need to dig out all of the existing asphalt, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. It's just, we were trying to avoid that to minimize cost.
That would also include that southern corner, the southeastern corner, which was badly degraded.
Yes.
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. And again, everything would still move 10 feet to the north, which would get us well away from the trees,
Right.
well away from the tree roots and disturbing them. And town staff would take up that 10 feet of asphalt, correct, Pam?
Yes.
Yes,
And I just wanted to clarify that it's not just the retaining wall, it's that Davis in the bid would have been keeping the existing asphalt of the court and going over the top of it, which would have given him the thickness that he was looking for. When and now if the town crew removes that current court, the bid only calls for 2 inches, and he would never suggest having a court less than 3 inches of asphalt. So that's what he would never do a court less than that. But because we already had a base with the current court and an additional 2 inches of new asphalt being poured on top, that was fine. He was okay with that. And that's what he was bidding on. But going now, if we take it away, he needs to have that 3-inch thickness along with the process stone underneath.
And how much does that add to the project?
We don't know that. We have to get new bids, Mary Louise.
Do you start all over again?
Yes, we would have to write it up with the changes, and we would have to rebid.
Do you have to rebid, or can you do an amendment to a bid?
So I have a question. I understand Lori's assessment and I agree with it. I think the corner that's degraded is actually the northeast corner and maybe not the southeast corner, if I'm correct. That's on the wall, right? Is that what you're talking about? It slopes down.
Yeah.
Okay. I just wanted to clarify that. Would we have a retaining wall problem if we were able to move the court from east to west, maybe by 10 feet, and which would give us some more space? Anyway, it looks a little, I don't play basketball, but the basketball court looks a little tight to me to the fence on the east side. And so I was thinking maybe we needed 2 more feet anyway in that space just to give people a little room. And then I thought, well, this is going to be an expense. at the time, I didn't know who was going to be paying for the retaining wall, but it was clear that the retaining wall needed to be fixed. So if we just move the entire basketball court towards the gardens, where the grade is flatter, just by, I don't know, maybe 8 feet. Mary Louise, maybe that's too close for the gardens, you tell me, but it seemed to me that there is room there, and it's a pretty flat surface there. There's we would move away from the sloping issue in the northeast corner that is currently, a consideration. Naturally, this would all affect the 3 inches of asphalt. But, you guys tell me.
So we never entertained that because we were working with the existing square feet and the existing court. So
Understood.
that corner you talk about, which is the hoop, the corner of the hoop that's closest to the playgrounds,
Yes.
that would have been filled. After the project was done, it would not have been ignored. That
Okay.
actual side of the retaining wall is old, but it's there. But when they cleared all that brush today, there was no more foundation.
Right.
No. So it's counterintuitive to go put a new asphalt on top of a platform that has no more retaining wall. So now, if we go out to bid, I mean, your question, Amy, is a good one, but we never entertained that. Not in this.
Understood. It just occurs to me, it might be a possible solution or up for consideration vis-a-vis the expense associated with the retaining wall, and maybe we could avoid the retaining wall problem.
Well, I think at this point, we have to get rid of the retaining wall no matter what.
Mhm.
Is that correct, Pam?
Yes.
Regardless of whether we move it over?
Yes. The fence is shot. The retaining wall needs to come down. It's a large expense to put the retaining wall back in. So to avoid that expense, our crew can do it, and we have all the fill. So it's not going to cost us anything. But do keep in mind, if you switch the direction of that court, it's going to cost more. They're going to have to dig out that whole section that's not dug out. They're going to have to put in process zone. They're going to have, it's going to be a bigger expense. And there's going to be fencing is going to have to go up.
Okay.
Yeah. I mean, I literally woke up this morning thinking we had a workable plan that we're going to go over tonight and we could be good to go and get this done by moving it 10 feet north, repairing over, putting in the new two inches of asphalt, new poles, new things, have a nice new court surface that we could all be really proud of and happy with. But this was a curveball that literally came up, today when the condition of the wall was revealed. So it means is to regroup, but I still think we need to think about conceptually, and that's what I wanted to, circle back with everybody is that, we still have a good path, which is, just moving the town, and again, we have real budget limitations on this. So to move it 10 feet north, have the staff remove the wall, use fill, which I assume they have available, you said, right, Pam?
Yes.
Mobile fill, they can fill it, grass it, we got to replace the fence. So I don't think it hasn't caused a huge problem, but we just have to regroup again because there's just legalities around the bidding process and getting bids, and when things get changed, that is now just a hiccup. But the real distinction would be now, instead of just working with the wall, we now have to remove the wall, but that just does change how much asphalt we need, which you could argue that having 3 inches of brand new asphalt is better anyway.
Right. Interesting.
It allows us to keep the court the same size, new poles, new hoops.
So the real
Protect
question
the
comes
trees.
down to how much more does 3 inches cost versus 2? The 2
Right.
was, okay.
Right, so we're gonna have to get the bid and then figure out where we get the money from.
But parking,
So
Is
I had
going to,
two questions, if that's okay.
Yes, Kathy.
I had one question is that there was in the bids, there was some indication that there were different sizes you guys were considering. Some were a larger size than others. And so I wanted to know what happened to that. And then the other question I had is very often in government contracting bidding, you can amend an RFP versus issuing a new one. And that might be a way to save you all some time, I'm thinking. I don't know if that's something that was discussed with the town council.
That was discussed with Kate Bush and town council, and I believe Jamie might have been present as well. And they presented the facts to the project, and he felt that it was a large enough changes that are happening that should be rebid. That's all I was told.
Okay. And what about the different sizes for the actual court? So I know some are regulation size that were considered, and other times it's just a sort of a youth size. So how was it determined the size of the current court?
So in the bid, because we had such limited funding, we had the 15,000 from the town, and we had a promise from David Seeley for 5,000, and then we had Patty, who was saying that she would help in the fundraising, but we didn't have a concrete number. So it was important that we gave the bid and options. So
Yeah, 5,000 is a concrete number.
So the current footprint of the court is at 80 by 40. So moving it out away from the roots by 10 feet and not doing any additional work that would cost additional money in the field came out to 70 by 40. So that was the first alternative. Second alternative was to use the existing footprint, but move it into the wooded area to make up the 10 feet for an 80 by 40. And the third alternative was to have a junior regulation size court, which is 84 by 50. I simply wanted to see what those costs would be so that would give the commission alternatives to choose from depending on what those costs were. And I even went to the extent that the poles that are there now, although they're older and they're gray and they're steel, they're still standing. And so he bid it with the current poles, using them, but then the other alternative was to get brand new poles. So they were kind enough to break it all out for us to give us choices.
But I think as much as possible, we're trying to, the most cost-effective way seemed to be to keep it at the 80 by 40, especially because we were hoping to reuse some of that asphalt as the foundation, all but 10 feet. And again, the movement of 10 feet is really very simply to save some trees, literally. Which was a very, well-articulated goal of the commission over a number of meetings.
This is Susan. I just had a quick question. Well, maybe it's not quick, but it seems like we're making a lot of changes to this, project, and we're kind of trying to work in this space. And we had a master plan where there was a court discussed at another location, and it just seems like there's a lot going on there. And with changes, the budget's going to increase, right? So I wouldn't want us to just on like working with something that isn't ideal and putting more money into it. It was one thing when it was a reasonable cost. We were just kind of fixing something that wasn't such a big deal, but it seems like now we're doing a wall and we're doing other things. So I just want us as a commission to take a step back and maybe think about that too. Is this where we want to spend most of the money? If we spent a little more, could we get a brand new court in another location that might be more ideal? Or do we stay with this? And maybe if we wanted to gardens or anything else out there, we have an opportunity to do that. The playground. I'm just, putting ideas out there. That this is like solid, but I want to think about it before.
as I recall, the cost of a new court was somewhere in the neighborhood of about $90,000. And I can't imagine even doing what we're doing in terms of adding another layer, another inch of asphalt and moving 10 feet, which it looks like you've already had your people over there today clearing that all out. It's still going to be far more affordable than putting in a brand new court someplace else.
I just want to think about it. I'm not saying what it is. I don't know what the bids are going to come out. If we get those numbers and they're higher than we anticipate or something, I just want us to figure out where we're spending our money, if it's a wise way to spend the money we have. You know, I'm not saying at the end of the day, say it's half the cost, we're going to go forward, but just to think about how much we're investing in this space, because it seems like it keeps on creeping up higher and higher. You know what I mean? And I just get a little nervous about spending the money there. You know?
Yeah,
Well,
I mean, we're hopeful that by having town staff do some of the work, that will free up some dollars that can cover basically the extra inch of asphalt. That's the hope. Because I think that the concept, and we've discussed this for so long, was, you know, if we talk about moving it, we're getting into a much longer process, public hearings, et cetera. And there was a feeling that this was hopefully something we could do for the community and get done reasonably simply, if we were able to work within the existing footprint more or less. So that's what we've been trying to do. I mean, you're right, Susan, the master plan called for a full-size court in a different location in the park, but I think that would be a much larger undertaking for a whole host of reasons, but that's the decision the commission is going to have to make. I was hoping we could make it tonight, but now we've got a bit of a new wrinkle, but we can certainly still, you know, agree conceptually whether, you know, assuming that this doesn't drive the cost to some number that's just we can't cover. Let me talk about the cost a little bit. The bid that we thought we were working with when I woke up this morning was $29,300. Of that, we have $15,000 from the town. As we've mentioned, we have been told that we have $10,000 of donations, although I have confirmed that we literally, Pam cannot sign a contract without having received those checks. So we have to have them, you know, and, you know, we don't have anything in writing as of now from the donors. But that would still require, that still shorts us $4,600. Pam thinks she can scrape up the money out of her budget for this year, but we have to remember that means there's other things that are going to get eliminated or short shrifted, and it's only the end of September. So, you know, we have to, you know, be comfortable with that as a commission, that we'll put in a little money to, you know, again, to get this project done and, you know, deliver something to the community that we've heard for a very long time, that there's real demand and desire for it. It's you know, kind of what I like to refer to as, we talk about work sometimes as a quick hit. That, you know, in the scheme of some of the very massive projects we've been talking about for the last few years, this is, you know, reasonably cost effective to give, you know, people. And the park is so actively used. When I went over week before last, it was after work, and the place was hopping. It was hopping.
Yeah.
Lori, it was my understanding that the bid you were considering was $25,700. What was the differential from that to the $29,300?
Pam, that's the new poles, correct?
Right, the polls were an add alternate to get new polls. So the 25.7 was with old polls, the current polls. So you add in that 3,600, that bid becomes 29.3.
Pam, can you walk through the timeline with this new RFP process, how long it's going to take? Is this something we could do this year, or are we there now because of the asphalt schedule?
It is extremely tight because you have to allow the time in the newspaper and for the vendors to bid and then schedule the bid opening. So I haven't looked at a calendar, but you know, getting vendors to bid on this by mid-October, we're not allowing ourselves a lot of room. If it's a cold November, I'm not certain. Ed Gentile did say that early December, but it's not, you know, concrete.
No pun intended. Could the staff be doing the work in the meanwhile to get as much of it ready as possible?
Yes.
Okay.
Can I just make a comment, Lori? So thank you all. I just wanted to clarify something. So I met with Chuck Davis with Dave Seeley on Saturday for about an hour and a half, just to go over what he was going to be doing and some more specifics to make sure everything was in line. And one of the things, I don't know if you talked to him about this, Pam, but one of the things he said was that if the town could clear that area to the 10 feet, which is what y'all were doing today, so thank you very much, that would allow him to take some of that cost off and apply it to asphalt. So I just wanted to put it out there. And the other one last comment is the poles that are, when you buy this equipment, the poles are included with the backboard and the pads. It comes all as one. So that $3,600 cost, I always thought was high compared to, you know, talking to the sports shop and getting their numbers, because they were giving us a 10% discount potentially with other bids. So that, but anyway, it was really the taking out of the physical poles is what is more expensive. So it's the taking out of the physical poles and then putting them in. So I just wanted to qualify that for you guys, because the pole is in fact included in the unit that you would be purchasing. Thank you.
Thanks, Patty. Okay, other questions or comments, concerns?
I will just add that I have been in touch with Chuck, and it will be, he didn't give me an exact number, but he thinks it's going to be at least 3,000 more for the additional asphalt, but it doesn't really matter at this point because he's going to have to rebid it. But that's, Mary Louise, to your point, he was, you know, saying that that would be an additional cost, obviously, and fencing will be an additional cost.
But I asked him how much it would cost if our guys cleared it, and he said it'd be about that would have cost him $4,000 to clear it. So that's why I was comparing. We did the work to clear it, and then he could do the, you know, have that additional. He'd already have the funding to do the asphalt.
My understanding, not to go back and forth with you here, but my understanding is he left the conversation with you saying he would think about it. That's what he said to me. And that he would think about that type of additional work.
Okay, thanks. I just, because I see her name on there, Adele, just as chair of the Parks Committee. I don't know, do you want to weigh in or do you have any questions?
I guess my, the only thing that comes to mind is I'd be a little nervous about adding money from taking money out of the parks budget. But having been on the RTM meeting this last Monday, it's clear that COVID expenses are going to be reimbursed maybe by 10%. I mean, so don't expect we're going to get a lot of money we put out because of COVID back. So I'm afraid we're going to have other expenses that are going to come down the pipe. We've already had quite a bit. So I would be nervous about your moving money out of another, you know, someplace else in the budget. That's it.
Okay, thank you, Adele. So, you know, when we know what the number is, then we're going to really have to put the numbers together, and it may be to make this happen, you know, certainly individuals in the community in the past have indicated they can raise the money for it. Whether we have to raise more money or whatever, we're really gonna have to figure that out. So, but again, some of the expenses that the town can take off may offset some of the new expenses. So we'll just have to see where it lands and whether we can squeeze this in. But I do think it would be helpful, for the commission to, affirmatively, signal to Pam, whether or not we are in concurrence with keeping the court at 80 by 40, keeping it at essentially the same location, except for moving it north by 10 feet to preserve the tree roots, replacing the fence, the staff doing work, so grassing and whatever around, and that conceptually, and then we would effectively end up with a new court surface. As opposed to just taking what's there and trying to patch over it, which I believe we've all sort of had a meeting of the minds in the past that we felt if we're going to do this, we should do it properly and have a court that we can be proud of and that will last us more than a few years. But I do think it would be worth having a motion and a vote that people concur that, this is the path we should pursue, knowing that we'll have to get a new bid and then figure out how we're going to come up with every last dollar that we're needed. Because again, Pam cannot sign the contract unless every dollar is accounted for, and in the case of donations, it must be in hand. We can't even have a commitment letter to confirm that it must be in hand. So we have to button that up. So,
Well,
yep, Pam.
I would like a motion that we move forward with this.
Okay, great. Second.
I'll second, it's Kathy.
Thank you, Kathy. Okay, is there any further discussion by the commission? Pam, yes.
I just wanted to publicly say that our town attorney did say that if people are donating money that's over 10,000, then we wouldn't have to go to the RTM for approval. At one point, that was a real concern, but he did opine on it and said that as long as it's, individual donations that are under 10,000, even though they accumulate to over 10,000, it's okay.
Okay. Thanks for that clarification. Okay. All right. So we have a motion and a second. So I'll need a vote. Jamie, I'll need you to handle that for me. Thanks. You with me, Jamie? Oh, there we go.
I'm like, Amy? Sorry. Amy, please.
Okay. I just need you to roll call for the vote.
Amy? Lori?
Yes.
And Susan?
Yes.
Okay. All right. And that's everybody affirmative, so no opposed. Okay. Well, I'd hope we would be in somewhat of a different place on this tonight, but we have a crumbling wall that's thrown a little nut in the works, but we will press ahead, and I look forward to us all being able to play a pickup game out there in the not too distant future. I cannot say that basketball is anything I have any experience in. Okay, all right, so that is the court. Last real, other than the reports, and a couple administrative items, the last item on this evening's agenda is the discussion on the concession analysis. We had the presentation from Mike Holtzman last month. He gave us a lot of information. We asked him for some, follow-up analysis in terms of where his numbers came from. That did get submitted, and Pam sent it out today, although it really did not provide that much more in terms of, of detail of where the numbers were. Again, I think like a banker, and when I see revenue and cost numbers, I'm looking for real specifics. How much are you going to sell on a Monday, how much on a Tuesday versus a Saturday, and different assumptions for number of rain days and things like that. We were looking for quite a bit more detail. But I did want to have an opportunity for all of us really just to have a discussion. I thought there were some really good takeaways and information that we got between his presentation and the survey, as well as the all the limited results that we had from some of our local restaurants who did some on-site food service this summer. So I just thought we could take a few minutes to really, chat about what we heard and our thoughts and, get a sense of the direction that the commission thinks we should proceed. As you'll recall, he was recommending that we take the food service in-house, hire a food service director and try to run it ourselves. So, that's something we would certainly have to think long and hard about, as opposed to a traditional model. So I really, tonight, there's nothing to vote on here, but I really wanted to throw it up into discussion so we can think about what the next steps might be. So I will open it up to the floor.
I think one thing that struck me is if he was making a lot of those financial projections based on the number of people that he saw at the beaches this summer, I think he's going to be way off base because normally speaking, certainly in August, our beaches go down to just having a few people. This summer was, not a normal summer. And I just think the numbers were way off in that sense. I also think it may be many of the things he was suggesting just seemed to be too much for what we're really looking for, a dining experience at the beach. And do we really expect to make that much money on this? I mean, it's not really a money-making endeavor, is it? You just want to provide good food and have people be able to enjoy it, without projecting these huge numbers revenue-wise.
Thanks, Mary Louise.
I think it's a lot to take on in the middle of COVID. I think that to suddenly take on in the middle of COVID restaurants at the beach, in essence, when restaurants are really struggling in town, it may be a better opportunity to maybe help some of our restaurants out during COVID to have them supply the food there. I think changing it all now and taking it on as sort of a service of Parks and Rec is a lot to do it all together. I wasn't too impressed with his numbers. I thought there was a lot of inflation in them as I looked at them. I think it would be hard to make what he said as you look through the numbers and try and break them down. I do think, though, there is a need in the town to maybe upgrade, according to your survey, Pam, which was great, the type of food that people want to have. But maybe we can have vendors do that instead. And then maybe if you want to take on having the town run one of them and see how that works, that might be an idea. But to take them all on is a lot right now, given the other things that are going on as well.
Thank you for that, Kathy. Susan, Amy?
I don't have any comments, except that I think that Kathy is correct.
Okay, thank you. And Susan?
Hi, I agree. I think it would be a lot to take on now for the department to do a restaurant business, basically. I think it's too much. And I agree, we should let restaurants that may want to showcase some of their food, prowess, like Lori's Cane, Jennifer's Kitchen. There's a nice way for the residents to kind of access it too. So I thought that was a great way to do it this time.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that struck me, and I can't remember who asked the question, it might have been me, it might have been Kathy, and it was somebody else, forgive me, but somebody said, well, what do you see as the risks? And when he said there are no risks, that put my antenna up, because I'm a professional risk manager, and there is nothing in life that is without risk. And the risks were running through my head even as he said that. So we would have to think about that, but I do think there were risks. What also caught me is, I think even Jamie captured it in the minutes, that he classified this as a captive market, meaning that once people are in, they had no other food choices. But it's not really like a theme park where you've paid your $40 fee and you can't leave or bring food in. People can bring their own food in, and they do. They can run up the street, they can get pizza delivered on site. So I'm not convinced that that was an accurate portrayal of the scenario. I did think his information on, assessing the community and talking to people, and, the need for fresh food and choices, I think was on point. I found his idea of having different concepts at the different locations intriguing, to make each one more of a little bit of a destination in terms of, creating some differentiation. I mean, we know that Weed and Pear Tree are two very different parks anyway. So what form that might take, I think could be a lot of things, but I thought that was a really interesting concept that he brought up, and that might even mean that it's two different vendors at each beach. And then the overlay of McGuan, where, he really pointed out the very, very heavy traffic there. And then that was sort of a new, layer that came into this when the Little League really said, we don't really want to do this anymore. We want to help kids play baseball, and running the food services, getting too much. But, when you talk to people around town who've been here for many years, they were like, that used to be the that's what you did. You went after work and you got your dinner there, and you watched a kid play baseball and socialized with your friends, and, you could get a decent meal, and it was great. And I think that could be something that could work out well with the right vendor. What also I found was very, very helpful that he commented on was the value of the equipment that's in place at the moment. And I would say, based on certainly being a banker right now and what I'm hearing and what's going on in the restaurant industry, that there is going to be a very large amount of used kitchen equipment available in this country, which is going to drive prices way, way down. Very, very sadly, taking advantage of a horrible situation. But that probably means that he is on target, is that we could either secure that equipment cost effectively, probably for much less than we were originally thinking, or could go out and buy other used equipment very cost effectively, because it is going to be available on the market. So, I'm almost thinking whether that's something, and we did get, different members of, the RTM and the Board of Finance kind of left a crack in the window open and said, if you guys pursue this and want to come back during the year and talk to us, you should do that. So it might be, as a first step, that we go back and say, look, we would like to, again, appeal for, the funds that we need to purchase the equipment. Pam, can you remind me, the equipment at McGuan, do we own all of that?
That's a great question. I'm not certain. Jim Coughlin, do you know that? No.
Okay.
No, I don't think the town owns that equipment. I think it's all Little League. Everything inside the building is Little League run.
Oh, the Little League owns it though, so it's not a food. It's not a food person. It's the Little League.
No, I believe it's Little League. It's not.
Okay.
It's definitely not the town.
Right, and it's not independent contractors. No.
No. Okay. So Jim, could you maybe see if you can find that out for certain in terms of the
sure.
ownership of that equipment? And then that would really compel a conversation with the Little League as to, how that would happen, or whether they would just, license somebody else for use of the equipment or something. We would just have to figure that out.
No problem.
Okay.
Yeah, Jim, I'll take care of that, because I've been back and forth with Sean today, and I just confirmed with him today that he wants the town to take over service. So he very much does. Yeah, but this is a big conversation to be had. even when we talk about, to Kathy's point, it being a lot right now, and to Susan's point, that is true. But in my opinion, I wouldn't even have gone full-time manager that oversees these concessions. I'd say you could start seasonally. It'd be more of a seasonal position at this point right now. And it's certainly, the onus wouldn't be on myself and Jim and Jamie in our office. It would be on somebody that was managing that. We do have seasonal positions today, and we do have to decide whether, what we decide to offer Rob for that equipment, or if we go somewhere else, because before we know it, it will be springtime.
Yep.
And we'll be having to decide, what's our involvement with Little League? And to Susan's point, it could be different vendors. Maybe it's not all, but our problem in the past was that we couldn't get one vendor to bid properly because they didn't have equipment to bring in there, because it was somebody else's equipment. So if we were to take care of that, we could have, multiple bidders.
And Pam, you said that the restaurants that did, and it was a limited amount of business that they did there, a handful of weekends, whatever, we're pleased that at least on the weekends, they got the demand. Now that's the trick, is they were there just on the weekends. And as Mary Louise points out, you've got to be worried about all days, quiet Augusts or whatever. But for what they did, it sounds like they were pleased with the result, and that the community was receptive and liked it.
Rory's worked 17 days during the summer and grossed $10,000. Russ, I talked to the other day, he had less time and he had more rainouts. So he only grossed about 2,000, and that's just a guess. He hasn't sat down and done the numbers yet.
Yeah.
He's going to give 10% back to the town. But all in all, he thought, there was not a lot of advertising. They were pretty much pop up, like Mike listed in his analysis. And but the feedback was tremendous, and people really enjoyed the food. The last night where they did a paella was he sold 57 pre-made dish or pre-orders, where people met down at the beach and picked them up. And so, to everybody's point, it was great that we were able to set something up for the people. And, I do think there's a lot of value to, as you said, Lori, once people know that the food is very good, and the backdrop of those beaches that you're getting while you might want to go enjoy a meal may indeed drive more people in that aren't necessarily just sit on the beach and get tan. Really want to grab a bite to eat and enjoy the view.
Okay.
And
I don't even know if this is, I'm just throwing this out there, just like top of the head, but if the town owned the equipment, and there may be like food safety laws that would prevent us from doing this. So that's why I'm saying this is completely top of the head, but could you just have a situation where we effectively allow different vendors, different weekend to go in and use the kitchen to do sort of like just like a weekend special or something? But I think that's something we would have. I don't even know if that would be allowable with health service laws and stuff or not, or whether you just really have to have one fixed vendor, because I would assume they have to have food inspections. So I'm just throwing that out.
And let's face it, whoever gets the bid, they want to make money.
Yeah.
Right. It is money in their pocket. They want it to be successful, and they want it to grow every year. They're there to make money.
Yeah. Okay.
Okay. But Lori raises an interesting point, I think, because it's almost turns into like a catering type of, you're just doing, a drop in like that, and it might give Jamie more opportunity events around different food purveyors. It'd be interesting to find the answer to your question about the health concerns.
Right.
There's
always a rule. I'm a banker. There's always a rule about or against everything. So I'm saying these great ideas.
Sure.
Lawyer, 6 different reasons that you can't. do something they're well intended and well founded, but kind of are buzzkills sometimes. So, okay. Okay, well, any more thoughts or discussion on this? I mean, it sounds like we have a meeting of the minds that at this juncture, the commission is not really feeling like going into the food business is something we want to, I'm going to make a bad joke here, bite off. So again, it doesn't require a vote, but is that the general sense I'm getting? And I realize we're missing, a few of our members tonight. But that, really pursuing, owning equipment, which was what we had hoped to do with this budget, really is, a key priority before we can really move forward. That being said, once we understand what's going on with McGuan, if we don't have an equipment purchase issue, then that's something we really have to think about getting going. And that could probably be even a separate sort of bid or contract sort of situation, correct?
Or the same.
No, but I mean, it's not like we have to go out with all three as a package.
No, not necessarily, no.
Okay, because that works more around, I think, they're basically only open at McGuan when there's games going on, correct? If there's no game, then they're not open.
Right.
Right, so it's really understanding the Little League schedule, and that would have to be part of it. And, I would imagine there's gotta be a requirement is when there's games, they're open.
Yes.
Okay.
Great French fries.
That's
By
what
the
it
way.
needs, great French fries?
No, it has great French fries.
Oh, okay. Okay. All right. So I think we'll conclude that discussion for this evening, and we'll continue on. Pam sent out a proposed schedule of meeting dates. Hold on, I need my glasses for this one because they're super teeny. For 2021, and we wanted to put those forward and vote on them. Does anybody, usually February, sometimes there can be an issue around school vacations, which I will admit I don't follow.
It's the school break, or you're right.
The 17th is the school break.
Yeah, so
Okay.
we could go a week after or a week before. I mean, of course, this year we're not sure what's going to happen, but I'm going to assume there is.
You're assuming there's a school break. Do you remember, Pam, did we go forward or back this year?
I believe we've mixed it up over the years.
Okay. All right.
We've dabbled in one earlier and we've dabbled in some later. So it's
Okay.
a personal choice.
Okay, I'm personally indifferent.
Last year we did it early.
Okay.
It matters.
So that would be the 10th, February 10th?
Last year we did it, oh yeah, for this, yeah.
Okay. So that, as far as the people that are here know, works. Tier and Sarah, I think, would definitely be impacted by the school. They both have children in public school here in Darien, so they would be impacted by that. So let's do that. March 17th usually is not a good week for me, but again, this year, who knows if anybody's going to be going anywhere. So
Right.
I think we just leave that. I'll get coverage if needed. There was nothing else that jumped out at me. Any other particular dates that people saw as?
Well, December got pushed earlier, so that one was, yeah.
Okay.
And I think the other conversation that we need to have is about the go-to meetings, because these are all scheduled in room 119, and quite honestly, I don't think anybody's given much thought to the fact that whether we can have that many people in room 119 with social distancing.
Yeah, Pam, what I'll be doing is I will reach out to Kate, most likely, to get, I've talked to a few other, commissioner committee chairs who haven't really had any guidance either, in terms of, I think that the town really has to take the lead on guiding us as to whether they want us to continue with virtual meetings or whether they feel at some point we need to go back to in-person meetings. But then, again, I don't know what that looks like. They are holding in-person meetings in room 206 for the selectmen. The selectmen sit very far apart. And then they strictly limit the number of participants in the room. They are having actual people there. I've been once. But it's not like the old days where the doors are open and anybody can come in and people can pack the hall. So it's very, very strictly limited. But that's the only room of that size absent the auditorium. So it becomes a space issue. You know, our usual meeting room, or if you were stuck with that tiny little room on the second floor, I mean, that just really doesn't even work at all. So I really do think that that's going to be something, Pam, that the town has to guide us on, or whether for the foreseeable future, they say continue using the GoTo meeting platform. But I don't think it's the commission's call. I really think it's the town, you know, guiding us. Because my guess is we can't all be in 119 and meet the guidelines, and certainly then we wouldn't be able to have it open to the public. So then I'm not even sure technologically 79's in the room, but how do you even set up the GoTo Me? I don't even know how that works.
We have a staff meeting tomorrow, department heads, with Kate, because we're opening the town hall to the public on October 5th.
Okay.
So we are going to be discussing that, and I will also raise the question about guidance for public meetings.
Okay. Yeah.
Just one more thing about the schedule. You asked if there were any conflicts. It was on my calendar, but September 15th is Yom Kippur Eve. I don't know if that affects anybody, but I wanted to just put it out there just in case it's a holiday for anybody. So September 15th.
It's Yom Kippur goes sundown to sundown. So that's the day before that, or that's the sundown?
That's the Eve day. Yeah, the sundown day.
The actual sun. So it's actually the beginning of it.
Yes. Okay. I just want.
Okay.
It's never complete, so, you know.
Then we should probably move that. So that's September 15th, 2021. We could either just move off it by a day or two, or just, you know, if people like to stay with the Wednesdays, we can just move, maybe move it to September 8th. When's Labor Day? Labor Day, I think, is the 6th, so maybe that's not good.
Yeah, I'd go 22nd.
I'd go 22nd. Yeah, because it's not just the commission. We have to be, you know, cognizant of the entire public.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you for pointing that out.
No problem.
Okay. Yep, go the 22nd. The only reason I was thinking of going earlier is, you know, in the faint chance that we actually get to cancel an August meeting, but that never seems to happen, and then we'd be going a long time. But you know, I think putting it into Labor Day week, probably not a good idea.
Lori, we used to cancel that, just not with you.
Yeah, I know. We've been busy. It's been very busy.
Okay, excellent.
Trust me, I would have liked to have canceled it. Okay. All right. So with the movement of the February 17th date to February 10th, and the movement of September 15th to September 22nd. I really hope we can all be back together by then, but who knows? We can take a motion to approve these dates for our 2021 meeting calendar. Can I have Amy? Thank you. Second. Kathy? Okay, and Jamie Gore, I need you to roll call the other three of us.
Lori,
Yes.
Susan,
Yes.
and who did I forget? Mary Louise.
Yes. Yes.
Great, thank you. Okay, awesome. Okay, Pam, you are up with your report.
Okay, well, I think my report speaks for itself, but I will pull out a highlight of something that Jim Coughlin put in section, which was a 115% increase in program participation into 2020 over 2019, which is pretty amazing considering such an incredibly slow spring with every cancellation that we had. So the summer was just booming, and, you know, to just go back and take a glimpse of all the amount of moving pieces and different information and all the assembly that we had to do to prepare for, you know, having no lifeguards. And so it turned out to be a pretty tremendous summer. And as Mary Louise pointed out, I mean, we had more users than ever. And I would say that we had more users that were now visiting our parks, maybe for the first time. I know many people that went to South Woods and had not been there before. So they were booming as well. So I thought that was a highlight. And to touch on, you know, Jamie's events, we are putting something together for Highland. You all have gotten a invitation for October 3rd, and it has not hit the public yet, other than the first 100 people that signed up for the community picnic that never happened. So they will also get first emails, registration requests as well as the Board of Selectmen and the Parks and Recreation RTMs. So we are excited about that. And Jamie, I don't know if you want to add anything to that, but we are doing it with the Darien Arts Center.
Yes, we partnered with the Arts Center. We limited capacity to 200, so we're well under the current state regulation of 500. I don't want to advertise that. So we have a very, very thorough COVID plan in place. Both the health department and the town have seen it and approved it, and the police actually. So I think we have done all the prep work that we can do to have those visuals and everything in place so that hopefully we can create a safe and comforting, safe environment for everyone there. We'll be starting our setup on Friday, hopefully weather dependent. And we've tried to talk to some of the neighbors this time, so hopefully we won't have any issues, or hopefully improving setup and making our events cordial at the new property, since this will be the official opening. Jamie will be doing a brief acknowledgement of the property opening as well. Nothing super official, but she will get up and say something. And then we have 2 live bands scheduled. And we're really excited because we've canceled a lot of events. So I'm looking forward to actually hosting something. So
actually working.
Yeah. Since July, we've attempted 6 events that we've canceled, not including anything during actual like COVID when we were closed working from home.
So if it rains, she's officially cursed.
We do have a rain date of Sunday, but honestly, at that location, rain causes so many issues. That's the biggest reason that we had to postpone twice in August. It's very challenging, not only from a shelter perspective, but also it's hard to get the stage out. It's hard to do anything without ruining the property out there, as well as no one really wants to go and have a picnic if it's been raining the last 3 days. So there's just a lot of factors there that just simple rain can cause issues. But I don't think it's going to rain, you know, maybe Monday and Tuesday so far, but we're really fingers crossed, everyone.
Can I just raise an issue with reference to Highland Farm? I'm spending a lot of time over there. I bought a bicycle. And I'm doing about 10 miles over there. There were, I understand, trash receptacles, which seem to have disappeared. And people are leaving their dog waste all over the place in plastic bags, but just thrown on the grass because there is no place to put anything.
You want me to speak to it, or are you going to speak to it, Pam?
I just wanted to raise the issue.
Well, I guess a couple of things. Initially, we did talk to Jamie and Kate about whether or not they wanted receptacles out there. And we very long term at this point, we are hoping to create more of a carry in, carry out policy in our parks. But that's very long term, but we are trying to actively make some changes to head in that direction. And Jamie was supportive of making Highland kind of a starting point as a carry in, carry out policy, since it is such like a natural park in that sense. And we did discuss the fact that dog waste is a little bit of an exception. So my understanding is that we are still considering bringing in some small waste receptacles for dog waste, if that is still accurate, Pam.
Yes.
That's my
we were supposed to look
understanding.
into
Now,
that.
remember, Highland is not a dedicated parkland, so it is not under the purview of this commission. That being said, Pam and her department have been charged with its maintenance, so frequently we do get looped in. We did have some inquiries from the community, Mary Louise, about that, but the Board of Selectmen did make the decision, I believe, voted on having Highland be a carry-in, carry-out property, with a feeling that there had never been trash receptacles there before because it wasn't really a public property, and to keep it that way. But the issue of the dog waste, unfortunately, people aren't wrapping it up and taking it with them, has come up. So it is my understanding that they are going to put small receptacles, really only suitable for the dog waste. And I believe that that's going to be attended to shortly. That's my best knowledge on the topic, Pam. Is that right?
That's correct.
Thank you.
But again, I urge everybody in the community to, as we've talked about this with our parks, you know, you bring it in, bring it out. And if you're walking a dog, you are responsible for that waste. And if there's nowhere to put it, you shouldn't be leaving it. You shouldn't be leaving it on people's stone walls or the sidewalks on Nearwater Lane or any of the various places that I see those little blue and green bags. So.
Yeah, all over, like Brookside Road, all it's more annoying.
Can I just ask a quick question about the goose poop? I hate to ask that, Pam, because I know you work so hard and I love those swans at Tilly Pond, but the geese are really, I'm at Highland every day, like Mary Louise is, and there's so much goose poop. So if you haven't heard it yet, it's coming. So just giving you the heads up. But I love watching, it's become the place that people are taking the tricycles off. There's so many bicycles and scooters, and it's a real pleasure to watch so many people be able to use that path. Thank you.
Yeah, I mean, we've had, as you know, communication, not with that part, but with Tilly, of course, regarding geese. But then, Pam, I know you had a letter from a member of the public who was very adamant that the community should be leaving the geese alone because they have every right to be there and it's natural, and really indicated that, I take action as a strong word, but really was pressing the community not to take any action against the geese and would look into remedies that might prevent us from doing so. So I don't know where we've left that, Pam, in terms of plans to do anything or not do anything with the geese.
We are thinking behind the scenes.
Okay. Just seeing
Just
what
be
the
aware, be aware for the October 3rd Rock Fest. Like, just be aware.
Yeah, we've been there, so we've seen it. I've seen the actual geese too. There's hundreds. So
Yeah.
it's not, we're all coming up with a plan.
Yeah, I don't know how you clear out a whole ton of geese poop. So that's all I'm saying. I'm just giving you the heads up. Thank you.
Okay. Anything else, Pam?
Not on my end, unless Jim, you want to add something?
No, not really. It's I will say that the paddle court requests this year are the most we've ever received. So I'm doing my best to give everybody some court time down at the paddle courts, and it's going to be, I think the paddle courts are going to be the busiest they've ever been, because I know people are a little leery of working out inside in the winter, so I think the courts are going to be hopping.
Great.
Okay. Anything else, Pam and staff? Nope. Okay. All right. I've just got a few things, and then we can wrap it up close to 9 o'clock, which I'm sure everybody will be pleased with. We talked last month about having a parks tour as we did last year on a Saturday. I wanted to get the sense of how people would feel about Saturday, October 21st. I know that's Halloween, but it would be in the morning, and frankly, I don't even have a sense of what Halloween may or may not even look like in terms of, you know, activities and for people with smaller children, et cetera, this year, whether there'll be anything or not. So that generally feel like, again, we're missing some members, feel like that would be an okay date to try to get something together.
Yes.
Sure.
Okay. All right. I wanted to push it far enough this season that people aren't still kind of trying to do, you know, summer activities, but not, you know, so it's so cold that we're out there. Okay. So that would be, we would call it as a special meeting and we would need to post it. Certainly members of the Park and Recreation Committee of the RTM would be welcome to join us, and it would be a public meeting, and any members of the public that wanted could tag along as well. Okay, so Pam and I will work on getting that organized. A couple of things I wanted to mention. As you all know, or most of you know, I represent the commission on the town's advisory commission on coastal matters, coastal waters, whatever the correct name is, sorry. And now we did have a meeting earlier this week, and just a couple of things very specific to the parks came up. I just wanted to mention to all of you. One is that the members of this commission are going to hold a beach cleanup day on Saturday, October 3rd. So it's the same day as the Rocktoberfest, in the morning, 9 to 12 at both Pear Tree Point and Weed Beach. It's taking place as part of the 35th International Coastal Cleanup Day for Long Island Sound, which is an annual event sponsored by Save the Sound. Usually it's sort of on a specific day and a specific time, and everybody does it together. But again, with the results of the pandemic this year, the big sort of giant group events that normally would be hosted on a given day can't take place. But that being said, they still, sorry, my other phone's ringing. They wanted to host something at least with a small group of people, and then usually you collect the garbage and you kind of take pictures of it. They a little bit try to catalog it to get a sense, are we seeing a lot of straws or paper cups or old tires or whatever. So that'll be happening on October 3rd. I do plan to participate, and I'd just really like to throw that out there to many members of the commission who feel they might like to participate even for part of the time. Yeah, they've allowed 3 hours. I mean, my view of the parks right now is there is not a lot of garbage, so I'm not confident that there's 3 hours worth of garbage to pick up, but we'll see. So if anybody thinks they could, help with that, that would be good. The other thing that was 9 o'clock.
Okay.
Yep, 9 o'clock. I definitely would bring, I know I'll be bringing the disposable gloves and wanting to wear a mask and stuff, just so I'm having plenty of hand sanitizer with me. The other thing is that the chair of the Coastal Commission is a member of something called the Citizens Advisory Committee. And it's called the Sustainability Resiliency Working Group of something called the Long Island Sound Study, which is a three-party governmental group established in the 80s, which is composed of Connecticut, New York, and the United States EPA. And they really work to inform, members of what's going on in Long Island Sound. They seek guidance on establishing policies for the improvement and safety of Long Island Sound, et cetera. And we get reports from time to time. And I don't have the piece of paper I want here. Shoot. Hold on. Too many pieces of paper in front of me. All right, I'll go from memory. And what was mentioned on this is that they're thinking about the activities that they want to conduct going forward. An area that they're going to focus on is what they call environmental equity. And what that means is taking a position and championing access to the water for all communities and all people. And, they cited, they have statistics on how many access points to the water Connecticut has, with a goal of increasing that. And whether that's done by trying to inform changes to laws or whatever, this is an area that this Long Island study group has determined that they are interested in going forward. So I just think it's something we should, keep an eye on. Certainly this summer we had a lot of discussions about, access to our beaches in total, in Connecticut in total, different opinions about, whether Darien beaches should or not be open to the public. So I just wanted to mention the context of, here's another layer where you have a, multi-governmental group who is really looking at it in the current environment, really looking at, when you look at all forms of equity for all people, having access to the outdoors and amenities is something that's on their mind. So I did want to share that as well. And then really the only last thing that I will just mention is we've had a couple of instances over the summer where, vigils or different events were planned at the parks. And Pam or Jamie and I were seeing about, reading about these in the paper that they were planned. Our park rules do require that group events that people apply for a permit 14 days in advance, which did not happen in a couple of these cases. So Pam needed to reach out, and then there was a request more recently for one on very short notice. So it's something we're gonna have to be looking at. We have to balance that. Our park rules have certain requirements and lay out what considerations Pam would use in determining to grant a permit or not. We do have to balance that with the First Amendment rights to assemble. So it's a piece that really, as we're looking at our rules, we're going to need to get input from town council on. I don't know when that portion of our rules were crafted. My guess is it goes back probably longer than maybe any of our tenure, with the possible exception of Susan on the commission. But that's something that we do need to be thinking about, because this has cropped up more recently and more frequently than in the past. So I just want to put that out there, something to be aware of. And that is all I had for this evening. Now, any questions on any of that? No?
Thank you for telling us about the coastal organization.
Okay. Yeah, you're welcome. Well, it's very, it's really interesting that, different organizations are really taking all of the, the national discussion to heart and really saying, well, how does this really impact us, and what's our share and what's our piece in this? And thinking about the activities that we all influence, and how does that fit in, and not just saying, well, it's somebody else's issue to deal with. So
Right.
an interesting tie-in.
Mhm.
Okay, well, I believe we have covered everything on this evening's agenda. As I mentioned, it being a special meeting, and thank you all for accommodating the switch. A couple of our members are dealing with family illness issues, so we send out our good wishes to both of them and their family members for speedy recoveries. And I think with that, we can go to a motion to adjourn. Nobody wants to adjourn?
I'll move to adjourn.
Amy and Mary Louise do. Okay.
I'll second.
Okay. All right. So Jamie Gore, just take our votes and we will call it a night.
Amy,
Yes.
Lori,
Yes.
Kathy?
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. I think we are all set. Have a good evening. And we'll see everybody in October. Okay. Miss seeing you all in person.
Hi, everybody.
Bye.
Yep.